Welcome to She Loves the Grid, where we discuss all things F1. Whether it's happening on the track, in the paddock, or beyond the grid, we'll talk about it all. And here we are, back to She Loves the Grid. I am Claire.
I'm Diane. Welcome to another week. Boy, that week went quick.
It kind of went quick, but during the week, I swear it was the slowest work week ever.
Yes. Oh, work week. Yes. I was working 10 hours a day. You usually work more than that. I don't know how you do it. I was exhausted by Friday afternoon.
By Wednesday, I was like, is it Friday? You hear that all the time, but this was the epitome of is it Friday yet? Every day. Every day. I was like, I don't even know. And I feel like I didn't get anything done.
Yeah. That sucks. That's the worst feeling when you just feel like you're spinning your wheels. I hate that. I got a lot of stuff done, but I still have a whole lot to do. I think it's the new norm.
Same. Yeah, same. So how was your week otherwise?
It was mostly work, and then I just collapsed on the couch every day. Read my book, watched TV. There really wasn't a whole lot else going on. Didn't really leave the house at all, just because I was exhausted. But in the desert here, it is warming up. So we've been super, super lucky this year. It's the end of June. It's been a lot cooler, but starting like today through the next at least week, we're probably the lowest will be like 107. We're looking at 112s, 113s, all that good stuff. So
not European. We're talking the 30s, mid to high 30s Celsius. Yeah, it's getting hot.
It's going to be hot. So I do want to pop out to the farmer's market early this morning because I think my favorite vendor for vegetables and whatnot is their last Sunday because it's too hot. They aren't going to be coming out anymore. So there you have it. How was your week?
It was good. Yeah, it got hot enough here one day. Not hot, but humid because we got some rain and then we got like humid. The first time I've experienced really humid days here.
Yeah.
And I turned my little fan on my desk, which I have here because it's humid enough today that I had to close the windows to do the podcast. I'm like, oh, I'm going to sweat. It's like, we're at between 50 and 60% humidity, which is, I'm used to more humidity where I moved here from, but for here, that's pretty humid. But it's good because then the grass grows because there's not like sprinkler systems like out in the parks and stuff where I'm at. But yeah. So it's humid, but I did get out of the house a bunch because we get down to the final steps of my visa.
Yay!
And I had to go and get like paperwork to prove I'm going to be insured and all that, which, to get it, I had to go into the office a couple of times this week. So getting really close. So I had to travel out, which I'm just so excited because my dog, which I haven't talked about her too much here, but my dog who was started as a suburban, COVID dog, because we got her as a puppy during COVID.
Yeah.
She's adapted to the train so well. She was just a perfect little train dog riding the train. And, other than she wants to go up and kiss everybody on the train. We're like, oh, sorry.
It's amazing because we took her on the train when we were there a couple of times, and that was like one of her first few train rides, and she does really, really well. So I can imagine a few weeks later.
45-minute train ride practically, or there and back over an hour. She did great. Yeah, she's doing really good riding the train. And we did do the train and the tram Friday, and she's like, she knows. She gets to the stairs and she's tugging like, let's go, and
that's awesome. And you've been taking her to my favorite brunch spot near you.
Yes, we went to Oof again. They featured her on their Instagram when I showed them. It's so cute. I'm like, oh yeah, look, I took a cute picture of her this morning. She goes, oh, I'm like, I tagged you guys. She goes, oh, I'm resharing that. They reshared it on their story.
Oh, that's so sweet. It is such a good place, and it makes me jealous every time you post that you're there. Like, darn it.
But every Saturday thing or Saturday splurge, we go to Oof for breakfast or brunch. Depends on what time we get up.
I love it. That's amazing. And you have tackled a big project this week, or towards the end of this week, you started a big project.
Yeah, so I got to go starting into this week. So Friday was International Women in Engineering Day, and I totally forgot it was. So I get on LinkedIn every day. I'm recruiting for someone on my team at work, so I'm on LinkedIn a lot right now. And for interviews and such. And all these things are popped up for STEM and IEEE, which is the International Engineering. I forget what all the E stand for, but lots of engineering stuff, right? Because that's what I do. And I was really excited to see what's going on with the teams and what they're doing. I know you heard the Red Bull podcast and what they did, but it got me really into like I got to do more with my Lego bricks. And as everyone knows, I have thousands. I think the current count is at least 62,000 bricks, but probably more because I don't have all my sets and then the random bags that I bought. So I will know in the next couple weeks how many I actually have. So I started the sort process.
Yes.
I'm through the first pass. It's going to take a few passes of the first 3 boxes of. I probably have like 25 of these plastic boxes that are just packed with bricks. So yeah,
amazing. I think I told somebody you had 10,000 of them, but you have like 62,000
over 62,000 bricks because I have 41 sets, and the 41 sets that I've got in this website that you can log your sets says within those 41 sets I have 62,000 bricks.
That's amazing.
But I know I have more than that because I don't have all my sets logged, and then I a couple of times went to like yard sales and bought just boxes of bricks.
Yeah.
Now in the sort, I found because of those that I bought some not Lego bricks, and I'm a truist. I want just Lego bricks, and so I'm sorting those out in Germany, which is really cool. Here, when you have stuff you want to give away, what a lot of people do is they'll just put it on a box right outside their door, and people know that's free. So whether it be like bottles you want to recycle and you don't want to go turn them in, and so that like homeless people can come pick them up and take them, recycle them for money, or like kids. There's a huge park across the street, right? There's lots of kids that go by. So I'm going to take all the non-Lego bricks that I don't want, and I'm going to put them in a box and set them outside for a kid to have for free when I'm
Can you imagine some kid walking by who's going to be like, oh my God.
And right now there's at least 40 in the stack so far that are not actual Lego bricks that I just don't want to keep. So yeah, I'll be giving away. Yeah, I'm excited about it. Yeah.
No, that's really awesome. That's a big undertaking. So,
well, I want to start to build, and I want to rebuild all my sets and all that for my Instagram that I have for my bricks, and I can't do it if I can't find them. And then I want to make, they're called mocks. Make your own creation. I want to make my own stuff. I can't do it if I can't find the bricks. So
yeah.
And I'm a little OCD, so now I can get them in a really OCD format. So I'm excited about that part. Just a little bit.
That is amazing. Good. We can't wait to hear more about it next week.
I can build more. I might be able to, maybe design another F1 car more than the one I've already made. So
that'd be so cool. I know. I still have that McLaren sitting a quarter of the way done in my garage. We need to.
I think I can take the McLaren colors off and rebuild it as an Aston Martin.
Oh.
Right? Ooh. That's what I want to do is like, it's McLaren, but I could take the same design and turn it into an Aston Martin.
Now I'm intrigued. If you do that, you've got to take like little progress pictures so you can share them with us, because how cool would that be? Oh my gosh. All right. I like it.
So anyway, so tell us more about this. You listened to the Untalking Bull. I missed that about the.
I didn't actually listen to it. So Friday, for the same as you, was super busy workday for me, and usually Fridays are not. But so I kind of feel like in general I miss posting a lot of stuff that I was hoping to post. But so like you said, Friday was International Women in Engineering Day, and all of the teams were doing stuff. So Aston Martin, Williams, they all were highlighting the women in engineering on their teams. And Red Bull, I don't know if it's a podcast or it's a vlog. I think that's what you call them, like a vlog on YouTube. I know they have a YouTube page, but they did a thing where they spoke with 3 women from very different parts of their team. So I do want to go back and watch that, which I'll probably do today. But I also saw that there were quite a few, I think at least a couple teams, and Red Bull for sure was one of them, where they had brought in women and girls that, to get them interested in engineering. And they had conversations like Q&As and talking, things with some of the engineers on their team. So I really, again, love what the teams are doing to promote women in the sport or get them interested in it from a young age. Like that was never something for me that anybody ever talked about when I was young. Like it just wasn't a career path. So I just love that the teams are really doing this, and especially, I mean, a lot of them promote this not just on International Women in Engineering Day. They're talking about it a lot, and we know people like Hannah, who's in strategist on Red Bull, and there's so many people that we're becoming more and more familiar with because the teams are talking about them throughout the year, not just on a specific day. So
I think that's cool. That's very cool, especially for what we're doing. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Red Bull, it's been a lot of buzz. I know you've got this down about like Danny Rick and all this. There's so many speculations just in fan sites in general. But when you see the news, the sports stations talk about it, that's when you're like, is there really some meat to it? Like
I know it's so hard to tell, and like we're gonna be coming up to silly season, so you never really know like what are people just hyping and maybe hoping for, starting little rumors about. So you never know. But ESPN did, I want to say it was like Monday, maybe Tuesday, said that their sources are saying that Danny Rick is open to taking a seat at AlphaTauri next year. And to me, I was kind of like, okay, is this just more puzzle pieces falling into place, right? Like, so we talked about, several weeks ago, was it after Miami, or maybe before Miami? Nick DeVries supposedly was given an ultimatum that he had through the Barcelona race to start showing improvement, or he was going to lose his seat. We heard that Danny was supposedly at AlphaTauri headquarters getting a seat fitting. So now we've got this where Danny Rick is like, oh, I'd be open to that. And we know, because we talked about this, I think it was last week, that there are very few seats available. Might have been 2 weeks ago on our podcast, but there's very few seats available next year. Now, that doesn't mean that a driver or a team can cut somebody's contract early. It happened with Danny last year. And so they could easily tear up that contract probably and be like, we'll still pay you out. So something weird like that could happen, but there's very few seats available. And I think maybe we can all agree that Nick's seat might be one that could be up for grabs. So,
well, it's interesting. Sources, with Danny just recently doing this broadcasting with ESPN, he's around ESPN a lot, so what are the sources? I'm air quoting that for people not watching. Like, true.
Yep. And it keeps him within the Red Bull family. So right now, we've got Checo and Max are the two drivers, although there is a lot of speculation about Checo. And he might be losing his seat. So I just try to ignore a lot of that stuff. I don't post about that generally online, except I did about Danny Rick, just because it's like, are people thinking of things? But it does keep him in the Red Bull family, which I think they really want to do. And I'm guessing, I think he was good at Renault, but after his, situation with McLaren, I think if I were Daniel, I would want to stay with Red Bull. I would want to stay in that family where I think they're going to be looking out for me now. And he is such an asset to that team. So I don't know. We will see. But here's another reason he might want to stay with the Red Bull team is they now have the same amount of constructor points as Mercedes and Aston Martin combined.
Which is so interesting.
Right? So I feel like they're running away with the Constructor Championship this year. And Mercedes and Aston Martin are second and third in the constructor standing. And combining their points, Red Bull still has the same or more. That is insane. Like, to me, I saw that. I was like, what? Are you kidding me?
You how it plays out, though. If Checo keeps continuing to struggle and doesn't make podium, and you see how Mercedes and Aston Martin are starting to be a lot more consistent, if that continues, if that dominance as, that high of a point. I mean, it's one thing for Max to continue to keep getting first, but if Mercedes and Aston Martin continue mathematically, they're not going to be able to keep that much of a gap at the construction level. I mean, Max maybe, but the structures level, they won't be able to keep it.
I almost feel like if Checo continues to struggle and Max does great, and same at Aston Martin, Lance, I don't want to say struggle because like Checo is getting up into the points. Like he might be starting low and doing horrible in qualifying, but he's getting up, fifth, sixth, somewhere in there. And Lance is kind of the same, right? So you've got Fernando always on the podium and Lance kind of maybe not doing great in qualifying, but getting into the points somewhere. So I feel like they're a wash. I feel like you really have to watch out for Mercedes because if you consistently have George and Lewis high up in the points, which unfortunately with George, last week, he did it. But if you have them on the podium or you have them finishing high in the points, that's who you right now need to watch out for.
Exactly. They don't even have to be on podium. If they continue to get like fourth and fifth over and over and over, just that much will keep them constructor wise higher up. I'll play
third and fourth, second and fourth, second and third. Like, I mean, they had that double podium before, right? So I think we need to watch out for them. Like, holy moly.
They're my other team, Mercedes and Aston Martin, the two green teams.
That's true.
And they're the German, they're German cars. So,
I like it. Well, Toto said they are bringing a larger upgrade to Silverstone in a few weeks. And then they're going to have another upgrade before the summer break. So I thought that we've talked about this, but they just keep progressing and they're pushing it forward as fast as they can. Toto said they're learning a lot about the car with the upgrades that they have. They did not think they were going to perform well in Canada. And obviously Lewis was on the podium. Sadly, like we said, George kind of crashed out. But if that was, they were thinking they're not going to do well, and they're on the podium, holy moly, I'm very curious what's going to happen with the rest of the season, especially as they keep bringing more and more upgrades. It's going to be, they are really pushing it.
Absolutely. It's going to be really interesting for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited. I can't stand it when we don't have a race on Sunday. I'm up early anyways. Can we just have a race, please? What do I do for myself? Nothing.
It's coming. All I had to do was play video games, darn it.
I don't play video games. I did finish my book though yesterday, so yay for me. All
right. Well, they have Aston Martin. I hope I didn't hear them talking much on upgrades, but I mean the car, they said that they thought it had issues, and if it doesn't have issues, but if Mercedes is continuing to upgrade, Aston Martin's going to have to watch their car. I mean, it's a good car, but they can't keep having issues, and then they may have to look at doing some upgrades.
Yeah, I'm really hoping whatever that fuel issue or what, I can't even remember what it was last week for Fernando, but
fuel and brake.
Okay, fuel and brake. I'm sure they're looking at that big time, but I think they had that big upgrade last week in Canada, so we'll see how it looks in Austria. And I don't know. Yeah, I haven't heard if they're doing another upgrade before the break or not. We'll have to see what happens there. But we kind of talked a little bit about just the difference between where Fernando is with the car and where Lance is with the car. And I kind of think that this is another story that's kind of been out there is, should Lance have a seat in F1? Should Papa Stroll give Lance a seat to somebody else because he's not performing like Fernando is. Just like right now, Checo's not performing like Max is. Although Checo started off the season amazing. So we know he could be up there. And Lance started, he had the broken wrists. And so I can imagine that he's still, maybe not at this point, still working on therapy for his wrist. But, I think that, do we think that Lance should be giving up his seat for somebody else?
Yeah, I mean, he shouldn't be there just because his dad owns the team, and his dad needs to. The dad's got to weigh the money and the business over the family loyalty. Like it's great if his kid is talented, but is he talented enough to have that seat over a stronger driver who can give them the points and the Constructors Championship, which would get him more money and and all that kind of stuff. Like he's got to balance that out.
I think that is part of it. Is like Lance is talented. Like don't get me wrong. Like I think Lance can be, should be an F1, but is he getting as much out of the car as Fernando is, or is it just Fernando's? Maybe he is, and Fernando, it's just his experience that is pushing that car farther. But if you look at Fernando this season, how many races have we done? Nine rounds, or was that 10 in Canada? I can't remember. Anyway, so Fernando has 6 podiums with 117 points. Lance has 37 points, no podiums, and his top finish was a P4. So that is kind of a big difference. Like
8 Imola was canceled.
Okay, but I think yes, 8. So 8 actual races. It was round 9. Okay, so but that's big. Like you have one of your guys is 6 podiums, and your other guy 0, 117 points, 37 points. Like, I mean, that's huge. But Alonso definitely has Lance's back. So he's saying like, and I don't think anybody would dispute this, but that Lance is very motivated. He's very committed, all of that stuff. And so Alonso was saying, the next important step for Lance is just being consistent every weekend. And he thinks because of his commitment, because of his motivation, that, and also like what Aston Martin is doing with the cars, that is going to come, that Lance will be getting there. So, but of course, like with all this talk about this week, and I saw it in a lot of different areas, is, should Lance have a seat? Should somebody else come? You go back to the speculation that Charles is wanting out of Ferrari, and he started following Aston Martin last week or 2 weeks ago or whatever that was. Yeah. So it all just kind of, I mean, gosh, you can go down many rabbit holes with these,
I just did the math. Fernando's scoring 3 times as many points.
Ooh, yowza. That's
per race on average.
That's kind of a lot. But I wonder, like, okay, so we talked about Max and Checo. How many other teams are like, where do you have kind of maybe that disparity? I mean, obviously, like AlphaTauri, who we'll talk about here in a second. Yuki's obviously the only person who's scored points for AlphaTauri, but I think they only have like 2 points. Who else? Like, are there any other teams off the top of your head? Like, I feel like Charles and Carlos, like Carlos is doing a little bit better, but they're kind of the same. Max and Lewis are, they're both doing what they need to do. Like, are there any other teams off the top of your head where there's kind of that large disparity? Like,
well, I'm looking at the standings, and you get I have to look at the points, but no, because I mean, even between Sergio and Max, you've got 195, 126. It's only 1.5 points. He's only 1.5 times ahead of Sergio.
Okay.
So that's not even that big of a difference. Lewis to George, 165, 1.5.
Okay.
Carlos to Charles,
probably not even that.
1.25.
Okay.
So
that could be the biggest difference in teams or teammates.
Is almost 2 between Esteban and Pierre, 29 to 15.
Oh, okay.
So it's 1.93. So 29 points for Esteban and 15 for Pierre. And then 12 to 7 for Lando and Alex. So that's 1.7.
Well, Lando and Alex aren't on the same team, though.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Sorry. I'm looking at the 2 Mercedes got me. That's my bad. So Lando is 12 and McLaren is 5. So that's the big one. Oscar, yeah. So
Yeah. And I kind of feel like the ones with the rookies I almost don't even count those because like
yeah,
they haven't been to many of these courses. But
it's still a smaller discrepancy. It's 2.5. It's still a smaller difference, right?
interesting.
2.5.
Okay. So we're gonna have to keep an eye on this because
The only one that's drastically different would be Albon and Sargent, which is 7 points to 0.
yeah.
And then you have AlphaTauri. You've got 2 points to 0 between Yuki and Nick. And then Haas is 6 to 2, which is 3. It's still a smaller difference.
Interesting.
And Oscar is, we just said that one. Yeah. So, yeah. But if you look at, that's the difference between Fernando 117 divided by 37. That's 3.16, 3 times as many points on average per race.
Wow. Okay. That is interesting. That is really interesting. Did Lance retire any of those? I think, was there one race that he retired? And we don't have to go down but now I'm just kind of more fascinated that there is this big of a difference between those two drivers. It's not like Lance is a rookie.
No, and think about it like this: Esteban, Charles, and Oscar DNF the first race.
Okay.
And Charles still is not that far behind, right?
Yeah.
Alex and Lance did not finish the second race.
Okay.
So
yeah.
Charles did not finish the second race. So that Charles that far behind, he did not finish 2 races.
Yeah. Charles has had a crappy season so far, which is why I wouldn't blame him if he wanted to leave. If he wanted to leave Ferrari. Now, I've said this before, but I can't imagine him not in a Ferrari red. But I mean, that poor guy's soul has been dragged through the mud. He's had not a great season last year. I mean, it wasn't horrible. I mean, very bad strategy calls. But this year, my goodness. Well, you don't have to keep.
Lance did not finish Monaco.
Lance didn't finish Monaco?
Did not finish Monaco.
Okay. So he did have a couple DNFs, which may or may not have. Oh, I thought you said he didn't finish the second race.
No, that was, sorry. You're right. He didn't finish the second one either. So he did not finish 2 races.
Okay. So that's going to obviously play into the points. I don't remember why. We don't have to look at it, but that's interesting. We're going to keep an eye on that for I think once we get to the summer break, then we can have a whole episode of where did we think, remember how at the beginning we talked about what rookies we thought, we were really going to do something, and we could talk about the pairing and who's doing better. Yeah, that will be a whole thing when we get to summer break.
We'll get to a rabbit hole here because that would be fun. We'll do some math and do that. That'll be some interesting things.
Yeah, you do the math because I'm not going to. Okay. This is why you're in the STEM. Okay, AlphaTauri, really quickly. So Nick DeVries, again, we just talked about how he may or may not have been given an ultimatum to show improvement by Barcelona. Well, we've had one race since then. I don't think he was great in it, but Principal Franz Tost came out this week, and I mean, to me, it kind of seemed like he was giving Nick his backing. And we've talked about this before as well, but Franz is the principal who really took Yuki under his wing. So Yuki's rookie season was kind of a hot mess all the way around. The attitude, he wasn't working out. It just was, he really needed somebody to kind of take him under his wing. And that's what Franz did. And he gave Yuki that opportunity to grow as a driver and as a person. And now we see where actually this year people are jumping on board with Yuki. They really like him. Sorry, my dog is looking, he's tiny and he's trying to look out the window. I'm like, what are you doing? There was a rabbit hopping. Anyways, So he gave him that opportunity, and we've seen that now in Yuki's third year where he is taking this tractor of a car and pulling it into the points. And if he's not in the points, he's like right there. Or they're penalizing him ridiculously so he doesn't get points. So anyways, Franz said it's hard for rookies nowadays to come into F1. They don't know the tracks. And then when you have a sprint race like we did in Baku, where Nick did not know the track, they had one practice, and then you're out there for qualifying for the race. Like that definitely, to me, seems like it would definitely make it harder. So he said, and I'll quote this part, is that Franz told Nick he should stay concentrated, he should stay confident, because we all know he can do a good job. And basically that's because, like, Franz knows Nick has won other series, he's won championships, he can do it. So I guess, like, my questions are like, Nick has been very quiet. Like, and I know Drive to Survive, he was saying, I'm going to come in, I'm going to be a leader, and whatever. And we, who knows how that was edited, could have been edited that way to make him look worse than he really is, or more confident than maybe he is. But he's been very quiet this year. And I talked before, like, I hope that this isn't messing with him mentally. Do we think he has a lack of confidence? Do we think that Franz really needed to be pumping him up because there's something happening behind the scene where he's not feeling as confident, which could obviously affect his performance?
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? Maybe he came into it like thinking after that, that one race last year, like, oh, I got this, and then he just hit this brick wall, and it's been like, it's just shaking him. We'll see. I'm glad he got that support. Well, hopefully, maybe that's the kickstart he needs to turn it around for him.
Yeah. I mean, do we think it's harder for rookies? I mean, last year there was only Joe. He was the only rookie.
So. I mean, like I said, you get this thing where they've not been on the track. I mean, you've got a lot of expectations as a rookie. Anything that you do new.
Yeah.
And we know anything. If you haven't done it, you don't have the muscle memory. It takes a lot of time and effort. It's a car you're not used to. And I would imagine your first time in a new car when you change teams, you always have. I bet if we go back and look at the numbers, like somebody's new to a car. I mean, Max's first year, it was not like he was the best driver out there, right? He had to get better. So it all comes with time. It all comes with experience. And then you've never been on the track before. You've got all this added pressure and all of that. So it's, and people are going to knock it because, we're female presenting, whatever. You don't get it, just whatever. No, we all have pressures. We all have this stuff that comes on us, and it's a very high stress sport. There's a lot of pressures, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen where it's going to be tough to get out there and perform to the max, and you can't expect that from day one. It's just not going to happen.
I agree. So then let me ask you this. Do you think that a rookie should have a contract that lasts more than a year? Should you give them, like, knowing, okay, you're new into F1, we're going to give you a 2-year contract, and give them that time to know that they can not ease into it, because you do have to get in and do your best and learn these courses and get in the simulator, but do you give them that time automatically? Or
I think it's kind of stipulations. I think there's still got to be some kind of stipulations. You can't get out there for your first year and half-ass it, right? They can't be in there and be like, oh, I've got 2 years to prove myself. They've got to show progression. They've got to show that they're working, I think it's like with any job, you've got to show that you're working and trying to achieve some kind of results and whatnot in each outing. I mean, but like, as we've seen, and when I first started getting into the sport, like one of the first things, then one of those first episodes of the show, like poor Danny Rick got out there and the car kept failing on him. Like you can't go into a rookie that says, oh, you've got 6 races to prove yourself, and all 6 races the car fails.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right? Those kinds of things. Or you get hit by another car driver. So
Yeah.
there's certain things that are beyond their control. So I think it's got to be a reasonable expectation and say that, it's not that one and done, but it's like if in the first year you're not showing, progress and growth, but
Yeah.
progress and growth for each one is different. Like we look at Logan and he's in the bottom all the time, but that doesn't mean he's not showing progress and growth based on his situation, the car he's in, and
Right.
what he has to work with, kind
And
of
he's
thing.
had some unlucky situations too. So yeah,
Yeah.
I totally
And
agree.
that car just craps
Yeah.
out on him. What can he do?
Right. Exactly. There's not a whole lot. Not a whole lot in that instance. Well, okay. So talking about I guess news. Well, we weren't even talking about this, but anyways, moving on to one thing we hadn't really talked about or haven't talked about is Audi taking over Alfa Romeo for 2026. They have been kind of quiet about what they're doing. They are working on setting up the team, but I think Andreas had come out. Was the principal for McLaren. He's taking over at Audi, and he said, we don't want to be touting all of the changes that we're making. We want to be respectful to Alfa Romeo, through the end of this. But they are very quietly over there working on stuff. So, like I said, former McLaren principal, who I really liked, Andreas Seidel, I think Seidel. I don't know how you say that. Anyways, he is setting things up, but they've recently announced that they hired James Key, who was also at McLaren. We talked about how he seemed to be unceremoniously fired by Zach Brown. And he is going to be moving over to Audi in September. So he and obviously Andreas have worked together. And even though James Key seems to be key in making that tractor of a McLaren at the beginning of the season, they have confidence in him to, get going on this Audi car. And then yesterday they announced a simulator driver. I think his name is Neil Yanni. He's Swiss. I think I'm saying that right. I could be totally butchering that. So he's driven in GP2. He's driven in Formula E, and he's going to kind of help develop that power unit. So as they're working on these power units, they'll have him in the simulator and testing things out to see if everything's where they want it to be. So I just wanted to kind of bring that up. It's still a ways off, but they are making little moves and quietly making little moves. But
I think it's fascinating how far out it is, but it's not, right? We're already talking about the 2026 season, and it's 2023. We still have 2 more years, 2 more full seasons to go, and the rest of this season.
Yes.
22 races still total. We still have, when we just finished race technically 9, right? Yeah. So we still have more than half of this season to go, 2 full seasons to go. Yeah. And we're talking about 2026.
Yep, exactly. So we shall see.
Which my kid will live here by then, by the way, because he plans to move here by 2026. So.
Perfect. Then we can go to a race. No, I think it's interesting. And I think I did not mention this last week, but I saw maybe I did talk about this. I don't remember. The Stefano, the whatchamacallit, head of Formula One, was talking about new cars. You know how that's kind of been on the periphery of things, is do we want to add more cars for 2026? And there's a lot of people that are interested, from the Andretti's to, other people. And he kind of was like, his personal opinion is no, we don't add more cars. So I think it's going to be kind of interesting. Again, you're technically not adding. I mean, Audi will be on the grid, but they're taking over Alfa Romeo. So it's not like you're adding another team per se.
They're talking about adding possibly 2 more teams and going up to 12, right? So
he said, we'll see what happens, but he's like, I'd rather see the teams that are there be more competitive, like that they be fighting with each other more than adding more teams who, especially if you're new, may or may not be. Like, do we need more teams at the bottom? I don't think so. That's just my 2 cents. I would rather see
funding, put the funding into the existing teams. Yeah.
right. Exactly. So anyways, kind of wanted to throw that out there. F1 Academy race this weekend. So I mean, there is racing this weekend. We can't see it, but there is. They're racing in Vandervoort, I think is how you say it. In qualifying, so if we've kind of talked before, like they have 3 different races and the drivers will compete, I think, in at least 2 of those, maybe 3. But the Al-Khabasi sisters locked down pole in qualifying for all 3 races. So Hamda, who is doing really, really awesome, she locked down pole in races 1 and 3, and then her sister locked it down for the second race. And so far today, I think Claire has a picture. So far, we've only had 2 races. So they did one yesterday, which Hamda won. So she started at pole. She finished first. Lena Bueller finished second. And then this morning, Carrie Schreiner won. And this is her first win in F1 Academy. So exciting for her. Marta Garcia was second, and then Lena Bueller was third. So Lena's got 2 podiums in the last 2 days. And we've got one more race later today. So I will post all 3 winners on our social media. But there you go. So they only, I think, have maybe 3 more rounds to go. And I want to say they're kind of more towards the end of the season. Like I know they're racing in Austin, which will be October. And I want to say the other 2 are after that, but I could be wrong. Anyways, we will continue to keep you posted. But speaking of like F1 Academy, the women's series, the W series, which I kind of nothing to do with F1. They were their own series for women. And they were around for a few years. And actually last week, they went into administration, which I think is bankruptcy for Americans is what
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. What is this all about?
Yeah, they couldn't land new funding. So last year, and kind of like towards the middle to the end of their season, they stopped racing. They had no more funding. And I was so disappointed because they were supposed to race in Austin and they just pulled the plug because they didn't have the funding. And they had some big names, some that you see in F1 Academy, others like Jamie Chadwick. They've, gone on and they're doing kind of an indie series, not, the indie series, but a indie series. So they had some big names, but they're apparently they are still trying to find funding. Lewis Hamilton, I believe, was a big supporter of that. I think he gave money, but they are hoping to reboot the series, which could be interesting because then you would have 2 different series, the W series and F1 Academy, which has the backing of F1 and all I don't know how much money they're giving to it, but they're really aligned with F1. They will be aligned with F1 for the races. So where would the W series go? They wouldn't probably be racing the same weekends as the F1 racers like they had in the past. So it could be interesting. We will keep an eye on that, but it may be really a struggle to reboot the series, especially when you kind of have competition like F1 Academy now and all the stuff that they're doing and all the interest that they've received so far. So there's that. There's that for you. And I think this week, I don't think we'll even get to our grid basics. I was thinking we could do flags, but we're already at 45 minutes. And
I know.
So we'll skip over that. You join us next time. There's a break in racing and we'll have that ready for you. Maybe I just don't want to do the flags. Like that's been on our agenda a few times and we never get to it.
We will get to it.
We'll get to it one of these days. Okay. Let's jump to beyond the grid. So one thing that we missed talking about last week, we know Canada was Lance's home race, but he has donated he had a special lid, boots, suit, the whole 9 yards. And he's donated all of that to an auction to raise money to benefit the wildfire victims. So there's been a lot of fires up in Canada this year, a lot of devastation up there. And so he has donated all of the pieces to raise money. I haven't seen if those have ended, but we will keep an eye out for that, because I think, again, I love that these guys are using their platform and doing what they can to help raise money, like Charles did for the Emilia Romagna region and the flooding victims there. Lance is doing the same for the wildfire victims in Quebec. So I love that. And here is one, speaking of German, Mick Schumacher is going to be driving his dad's W02 from 2011 at the Goodwill Festival of Speed, which takes place in Sussex. I want to watch that, and I will probably cry. Like, how cute is that, though?
So cool.
Right? I just think, I don't know if I'm sure maybe at some point he's driven one of his dad's cars. I honestly don't know if he has or hasn't. But
I'm not sure.
yeah,
I have to look it up.
I'm not sure either. I'm sure, I would think at some point he must have, but just amazing. I love that. I love those kind of stories. I had to share that. And then, drivers living my life again. I think I should have been born an F1 driver, but it's Fashion Week in Paris, and you had Lewis Hamilton and Pierre Gasly. If you're watching our YouTube, you can see some photos of these guys at the show. I don't think I'm loving the shorts outfit that Pierre has on, but Lewis is always looking fine.
It does match. I couldn't get the picture one time, but she was being moody. It does match my fake Louis Vuitton knockoff scarf that my dog wears.
We will get a picture of that next time. I think it would have been funny to put her up here with these.
Photoshopped it in.
Yeah, just throw it in there. But yeah, Lewis always looking amazing. Love it. He was front row. And then Joe, more importantly, Joe is living my life, because Dior is the brand that I am obsessed with, have always loved. And I don't know if he must be a brand ambassador for them, because he wears a lot of Dior. If you watch on Monday mornings after the race, I usually do a little fashion reel of all the stuff, and Joe's always in there. And he was at the Dior fashion show. So lucky guys.
Well, one thing you don't have him for if we put the other one up there, because of course, I'm obsessed with Fernando. Did you know one of the things he did this week while he was off is he went back to his go-kart race, because he's got a circuit in a town where he grew up in Spain. It's got like a museum and whatnot, but it's got actually a circuit there, and it's got a go-kart, and he's got a picture of him driving one of the go-karts around the circuit, and he's like back to karting. He's actually on the go-kart racing around the track.
Oh my gosh. I would love
to do that. Yeah, I know.
Can anybody go to his?
Yeah. Yeah. You can go there and rent a cart and race a go-kart around the cart.
We should do that.
We could do that.
Okay, next year when we go to Europe, when I go to Europe for a race, you already live there. We should try to figure out how to do that.
Yeah, it's on the north side of Spain. But yeah, it's got a whole museum. Like one of his cars is there, his helmets, like all sorts of stuff is there. Oh yeah, there's all sorts of stuff there, like in a museum. But yeah, there's a whole cart, there's a whole like track, and you can go kart, and you can have events there. You come for your birthday. We just celebrate your birthday there.
That is so fun. Oh my goodness, I would love that. I've only been karting one time, and it was terrible. They kept waving the blue flag at me, and at that point, I didn't know what the blue flag meant. And so I kept going, I kept yelling at the guy waving the flag. I'm like, I don't know what that means. Like, stop waving that at me. And he's like, you have to move over. And I'm like, I'm not going to move over. Like, they can figure out how to go around me. So I'm not the best at karting, but I think it would be really fun to do. So we should totally do that next year.
Yeah, here, I'm just going to impromptu share my screen to show you. Well, everybody can see this. Here we go. Here is Fernando karting around his.
Oh, boy, that is awesomeness.
That's him.
I love that. It's so colorful, and his little suit matches his cart. I love that's awesome.
And he's just like back to action.
Okay, we need to look into that. We definitely need to look into that. Okay, here's something else that I heard this week, and I hope it's true. So we know that Vegas is going to be a spectacle, right? Like it's going to be they're touting it as bigger than the Super Bowl. I mean, I think tickets are probably more expensive than the Super Bowl. So,
oh yeah, they're crazy.
but I heard that there is going to be a golf tournament between the drivers from F1, or some of them, because not all of them play golf, but a lot of them do, quite a few of them, and some of the professional golfers from the show Full Swing. So both shows are run by Liberty Media. So they're putting together a little match in the desert. It's supposedly going to be the first live event on Netflix, or live sporting event on Netflix. And because, I mean, my kids grew up golfers, I just went through a whole stack of golf shirts that my son still has here of like, what can I send to you? So for me, like, holy cow, I would go to Vegas just for this. So if I could figure out how to get tickets for just the golf part, because I'm sure you'll have Carlos out there. I'm sure you'll have Lando out there. I'm sure you will have Alex Albon out there, which I would like to see his girlfriend Lily, who's a golfer, on the bag. Like, who else? Lewis golfs. I don't know how good he is, but he does golf. Charles golfs, but I guess he's not that good. But anyways, like, come on. Like, could you imagine? Or even, and who knows who they'll have from Full Swing, because they had like some guys who are ranked lower, but then also like Scotty Scheffler and some of those people. So I'm going to be
keep an eye on that.
Big time. I will drive there. It's like a 5-hour drive from here. I will drive there. I will sleep in my car on the way back. I will watch the golf. And it's like, which golf course are they going to play out there? There's so many good golf courses.
So if everyone doesn't understand, Diane wants to go.
I don't even have to go to the race. I will just come for that. Who knows somebody that could get me there? Seriously, I would geek out big time. I will caddy for somebody. Who needs a caddy? I have caddied for my son many times. I've caddied at Pinehurst. Like, I will come and be your caddy. Just throwing that out there to any F1 drivers who might need a caddy. Just saying. I will come up.
She knows golf. She knows F1. It's not like she's not been around famous sports people before. She's very professional. Come on, I'm touting her up. Here we go.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. It don't impress me much, but but this would be incredible. Absolutely so much fun. Or maybe I could talk Randy into being a caddy. That's my son. He was a golfer, and he's very, very, very good. Anyways, okay. So here's another fun thing for people who have billions of dollars, can afford to go to the F1 race in Vegas. But if you have that much money lying around, with F1 Authentics, they have the coolest stuff. If you don't follow them on social media or whatever, just follow them for kicks. It's kind of amazing. But you can bid on the suit that Max wore in Canada. That's the one he won his 41st GP, tying him with Ayrton Senna. He will sign the suit and he will give it to you at an exclusive meet and greet at the Red Bull factory. So the money is being donated to Wings for Life, which is a spinal cord injury nonprofit. And I'm sure that's going to go pretty high. I kind of want to go out and see what it's at. But
I'm asking whoever wins, ask him to draw a bird on it with a signature. I'm just saying. It would be very unique and very representative, because all the memes going around that the dead bird has more winning laps than Hamilton and all others and right now. So I'm just saying there are more leading laps. It just like, it would make it even more valuable. It'd be more valuable too if you've got that. And let's have to put like bird wing, just a little bip, bip. It just add to it just a little bit. He has some humor, show his light side. I would, Max, I'm just saying, I will grow to like you. Just have a little humor. little bird wings, just little boop, boop.
think he should do that. That would be hysterical. And I could actually see Max doing that. I could see him doing it.
It would make it a much more memorable suit because it's really representative of what happened at that race. That he drove around with the bird in his car and
Yes. And I saw that meme, which is hysterical. He like the bird is second only to Max, right? In the number of laps leading a race
in a GP race this year. Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
That is classic. Why is the internet so clever? Like I am never that clever ever. And it just
well, you said something clever today, unless you picked up for anyone else. I'm writing it down. When we put some merch out, we got to put up there the tractor of a car. Like the tractor.
Oh,
you said it a couple times. I'm like, did she put that somewhere? Because that is hysterical.
That is, yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like that's a typical term for bad cars, but I don't think I've seen it on any merch anywhere. So there you go.
I'm just saying.
Okay, let's talk Austria. So also called the Red Bull Ring. I always want to say wing. Red Bull Ring. Okay. It isn't a beautiful. Yeah, it's a hard one. It isn't a very beautiful area. Like supposedly you come into that, it's like in a bowl, right? And it's just green all around. It's supposed to be gorgeous. So anyways, it's 71 laps, 3 DRS zones. There's 10 corners and we have a sprint weekend. So just to remind you how the sprint weekends work, because for a second I was like, shoot, what do we do now? And so Friday morning, we have the practice. It's your one and only practice for the weekend. But a lot of the drivers have driven here, so it's not going to be like Baku where, it may not be as crazy. In the afternoon on Friday, we have qualifying for Sunday's race. So Friday qualifying for Sunday. Then on Saturday morning, we have the shootout. That's going to set the grid for the afternoon sprint race. So Saturday is really all about the sprint. You've got the shootout in the morning, sprint race in the afternoon. And then on Sunday, we have the race. So sprint weekend. It's a shorter circuit. I think it's the 4th shortest circuit on the grid after like Monaco and Mexico and Brazil, not necessarily in that order. But it's 4.318 kilometers. So qualifying can be a little bit tough just because it's short. It's a short track. So 6 of the last 10 pole positions at the track have been decided by less than a 1/10 of a second. So when you think about that, though, and it's a sprint weekend, like this could be a very interesting weekend. Very interesting. If it's that tight, and we know that the cars are faster this year, and they're, there's groups of them that are more competitive. I am really, really, really hoping for a very interesting race. Hoping that we see, I don't want to see people crashing out. I just want to see a lot of close times. So
I'm going to be yelling and screaming a bunch. I have a feeling.
Probably. So the first half of the track is really all about power. There's 3 straights separated by 2 uphill, like right-handers. So there's some elevation changes, which I think is kind of cool. And then it's all downhill after that. The second half of the race is just like
you crack yourself up on that, even in the notes.
I did. I was like, it's all downhill. You know what? I think I'm hysterical. There's a lot of fast corners. There's a right-hander called the Ren right-hander that's supposed to be kind of fun. Red Bull fans are going to be plentiful every time. When you see the race on TV, it's all orange for Max. And McLaren cracked me up because they're always like, we love to see all the papaya fans out here because, orange is more for Max, not Red Bull. And then they always have those darn like canisters with the orange smoke or, whatever. So we will definitely be seeing a lot of Red Bull and Max Verstappen fans at that ring. So
my partner, he got his Red Bull shirt in finally from the F1 store. So he might actually wear it.
He can wear it. Yeah. Nice. He'll be all set. Well, it's going to be an amazing weekend for sure. I cannot wait tomorrow to be like, it's race week. It's race week.
What time of the day is it for you?
Oh, it is early. Hang on. I was looking yesterday. So practice is at 4:30 a.m. with quali at 8 a.m. So I will definitely be up for that. And then shootouts at 3:30 in the morning with the sprint at 7:30, and then the races at 6. All the European races are at 6. So I'm usually up early, so I'll be able to catch the practice and the shootout before the qualifying and the sprint race.
So we'll be able to record later that day.
Absolutely.
They're all normal times for me because they're all my time zone basically.
Yeah. This whole European stint is perfect for you. But I'm up by 6.
During my work day on Friday. So on Friday it's at the practice is at 1:30 and the oh good. 5 o'clock my time is the quali.
Okay. Yay.
The meeting that I have at the time, I'm just gonna have to watch the recording.
Yeah.
I haven't gone through and booked my times off on Fridays. I'm up to
I hope I don't. Last Friday I had a lot of meetings, and I'm hoping this Friday I don't, so I can do some administrative type work while I'm kind of, working. I'm gonna.
Well, that is it. We did it right in an hour.
Woo! Yay! Race week coming up. So exciting. The sprint race week. Yay. Can't wait.
Next time we'll be talking about the race. So thanks for coming along on the ride, and we will see you guys in a week.
See you then. Bye.
Bye. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe and leave a rating and a review. To stay up to date with She Loves the Grid and get all the behind the scenes content, you can follow us on Instagram at She Loves the Grid and on Facebook at facebook.com/She Loves the Grid. Thank you for joining us for the ride this week.